Hey everybody, it's Peter from Brantford Kia, and today we're talking about the 2019 Kia Soul SX, which is also known as the Kia Soul Turbo. Now this is one of my favorite cars because I think if you're going to make a car that's a performance car, you should sort of do it right, and I think they do this one right. A lot of people expect that the turbo model is the top of the line price range, and it's not, especially in this trim. You can get the turbo with all the tech and everything else, but I think the confusion comes in with, in Canada, this car was known as the SX before it had a turbo, and the SX was top of the line. Now what you can do is you can get an EX Premium for about the same price as this car, or you can get an EX Tech for more than this car, but it still has the base 2-liter, or the mid-level 2-liter engine, which sort of the common engine in this car. This car has a 1.6 turbo, it's a twin scroll turbocharger, it's 201 horsepower, and the big thing is it makes all of its torque down low, which means that torque is the power you feel, and when you're driving around, this car feels powerful in addition to actually being powerful. It's also got a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. That means it's a true, fun performance car, but it's also really, really practical. So we're gonna take a close look at this. We're gonna look inside, outside. We're gonna talk about the features, and we're gonna talk about why I think it's the great sort of balance point of, you know, getting a performance car with practicality without going overboard with spending your budget. It's a great, great car, and we're gonna talk about it. Let's go take a look. So we'll start at the front of the car. The thing that's nice about the current Kia Soul is a lot of that square boxiness of the styling. You actually don't notice there's a ton of curves on the outside of this car, just really for aerodynamics and performance. So the windshield, a lot of people don't realize, although it's tilted back, it also has a sharp curve to it that way. It's also got, you know, projector beam headlights in here. The grille section down here is different in the turbo. You've got a red line down here. So anytime you see that red line, you know it's the SX Turbo model. Nice big fog lights, projector beam lights. In the higher trim level, these are high intensity discharge or HID lights, but in this one they're just the regular projector beam headlights, so they still have that sharp cutoff but regular halogen bulbs. This is a false grille through here, so good for aerodynamics. Steel peel and plastic off the car because the car is brand new, but in here you don't have an opening of the grille, and it makes it look just nice and sleek, really sporty look to the outside. The grille down here gives it some nice width, some presence on the road. A couple little things you'll notice difference on the turbo as well, in addition to the look, is the front brakes are larger in this car. So larger front disc brakes, of course 4-wheel disc brakes on the car. So that's the real difference in look from the front of the car. We're going to take a look at the back of the car as well now. So the back 3/4 angle of this car is really where you see sort of the differences. First of all, you don't have roof rails on the turbo models. They are more of a sleek look, sleek design, and that just makes it look a little sportier to me, a little tighter. You know, no extra frills. This is about performance, and I think that works with no roof rails up here. The wheels look good, of course. You've also got the red line that continues along the side. Where you don't have a red line is along the back of the car. You have this different diffuser down here, and you have a turbo badge over here, which is also, of course, red. You can see that right here. It looks really sharp in the red as well. So you get that nice sort of square look. You get the extra details on the side and a nice clean back end. You do have the LED taillights in here. Now, a lot of people wondered about that. Do you have the LED taillights with the turbo model? Taillights, brake lights, this is all one piece. Those are LED, so they're quick and instant on. Now let's talk about the practicality in this performance car. So if you follow our YouTube channel, you'll notice that this is the third Kia Soul I've done in fairly quick succession here. We did the regular 2-liter one, that's sort of the volume seller. I think that was an EX or an EX Plus. It's a white car. You'll find it on our YouTube channel. We just did the Kia Soul EV, which is a completely different car, but kind of the same car, and now we're doing the turbo. And if you've watched any of those videos, you're gonna hear me say a lot of the same things, because what works in those cars is what works in this car. The difference is those are different flavors. The EV is a very practical car. The other Kia Soul, very practical as well. The EV, of course, focuses on efficiency. This one focuses more on performance. Now we're gonna pop open the back here, and we're gonna talk about the underfloor storage. A lot of people see the trunk and they say, okay, you know, normal space, that kind of makes sense. There's a ton of underfloor storage in this car as well. You flip up this panel, you've got that. The seats fold down as well, and a lot of these small crossovers, they're going with a smaller opening than they've ever had before, because they have, you know, extra design details that maybe close in here, or they have suspension intrusions in here where the suspension for the car sits. On the Kia Soul, you don't see those. What you get is a big square opening that continues right through. When I fold those seats down, I've got a ton of space, but in a very compact, easy to drive you know, format. So this car works really well for the performance enthusiast that has a life, has practicality, and also needs to take their stuff with them. Really smart design makes this car a great platform for a performance car as well. Let's talk rear seat space. Now the big thing with this car, every Kia Soul like this is there's a ton of space, and you lose that in this small crossover segment, but you also lose that in sort of that performance hot hatch kind of segment. There's just not a lot of practical space. There's a couple things I want to point out in this car, and again, if you've seen our other Kia Soul videos, you've heard some of these things before. The Kia Soul is super practical and is a great platform for practicality because that square design gives you a lot of space. So I've got a ton of headroom. The rear seats are angled at a proper angle. You're not feeling like you're cramped up. You're not feeling, you know, it's a right angle. And the other big thing you notice is my legs are flat on the seat. Now that makes a big difference because for long-term comfort, I could sit here all day and be comfortable. There's plenty of room underneath the front seat for my feet. I can move my legs around, and as you can see, I've got tons of legroom. I have this seat a little further back than I might normally to drive. I can certainly drive with it like this, but I could probably gain another inch of legroom by moving it forward just a little bit. But again, you know, you can see I'm about 6 feet tall. There's really no issue with fitting me in here. And I think that's kind of cool because when you buy a performance car, you want something that's nimble, small, easy to handle, but you also want something that you can take your friends out in. And this makes a lot of sense. If you're someone who has a family, a couple little features you may not notice. Big wide opening doors are really useful for getting child seats in and out. And you've got plastic on the back of these leather and cloth mixed seats. So the plastic here is super helpful because as your kids sit there, or as the kids that you take around sit there and put their feet up here, you get all kinds of dirt and stuff. If you have leather the whole way, it could scratch the leather. The plastic seat is easy to wipe down, easy to keep clean. And if you're a guy like me who likes keeping the car pretty clean inside, that makes it super practical. This one's got a pocket on this side, and you know, you've got an armrest over here as well, so you can fit adults in here, make them comfortable. There's cup holders in the armrest, bottle holders in the door. Everything you touch here is also soft touch. The seats, of course, you've got you know, nice soft plastics where you put your arm on the door, nice soft armrest there as well. So a super comfortable place, super practical place, but you're still in a performance car. We're gonna talk about the seat fabric. That leather cloth mix has moved to the front seat, and we're gonna talk about a lot of the features in this car that make sense for this model's intended purpose. So let's talk about that in the front seat. So when we talk about a car's intended purpose, to me, this trim level, now this is the regular SX Turbo, it's not the tech model, but this car is sort of that sweet spot with everything. We talked about that off the start of the top of the video where we talked about, you know, performance, practicality, and price point. And you know, the 3 Ps, I guess, of this car. But really, this is where this car, you start with a platform that works really well. It's a solid platform, so you can make a performance car out of it. It corners flat, it brakes without a lot of dive, so you've got that anyways in the regular car. Now you add the better transmission, the you know, the more performance-oriented transmission, the performance-oriented engine, and then you start adding details that make it feel special, but really help with the sport. So first of all, you've got a nice, unique steering wheel. This is a flat-bottom steering wheel in here. What I like about that is it feels like a sports steering wheel. You got the contrasting stitching, the matching contrasting stitching across the dash in front of me, and contrasting stitching in the seats. Now I was going to talk about the seats and the trim there in the back, but I left it to the front because a performance car, you often don't see it, like a true performance car, you don't see leather throughout. Those are more luxury cars. And the reason you don't is because you want the seat to grip you a little bit in the corners. So this one has nice bolstering, these nice sports seats, but it's got a cloth leather mix. And that cloth helps you stay grippy, grip to the seat and stay in place. So it's sort of a tribute to real performance cars, high-end performance cars, but it also makes sense in this car because it's a performance version of our Kia Soul, and I think it really mixes it up in that hot hatch kind of market, but still gives you something practical. But those seats that are cloth leather mix, it's not just a styling thing, it helps grip you to the seat. So let's talk about some of the features you get in this car. Again, a step down price-wise from the one with everything, but you're still extremely well equipped in here. You've got a big screen in the center. Now, of course, that's a big clear backup camera. You can see that here. It's also got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay on that big screen. So what that means is, even though you don't have factory navigation in this car, which you can have in other Kia Souls, you do have, with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, you have navigation through your cell phone. And I love the the interplay between Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. When you just plug your phone in and you move a number of your phone features to that screen, it makes sense. It works really well on both platforms, and it's a system that will update even though your car doesn't. So when you have a 10-year-old car, you're still running the most up-to-date software in Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and that just makes a lot of sense. You can upgrade that. You can upgrade your phone. We're used to touch screens that upgrade, and Android Auto and Apple CarPlay will provide you those updates as you move through. And of course, navigation is the big feature there. You can text and drive. You can through voice and that kind of thing. Makes it much safer. So that's a good system. You've also got satellite radio in this car. Now, some of our cars, they don't have satellite radio all the time when they have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, but satellite radio is great. You get 3 free months free when you buy the car, but of course you can subscribe to that. I'm a big fan of satellite radio. You can do road trips and never have to change the station, no commercials, great system. All right, moving down, you've got automatic climate control. So big thing with there, set the temperature to whatever you want. If it's a day like today, when I left this morning, I was scraping ice off my windshields. Now I'm quite comfortable. I could take one of these jackets off. So a day like today, you set the temperature to whatever you want it to. It'll give you heat when you need it. It'll bring it cool down when you don't need that anymore. You've also got heated seats in this car. Now you could get heated and cooled seats on the Kia Soul line. That's a feature that you do give up. I think that's an okay feature for this car's intended purpose. You save some of the weight of that cooled seats, the fans in the seat, and I think, like I said, it meets this car's intended purpose. It's a simple car, but it's got a lot of nice features. Push button start is standard on this car, so that means you also have a key fob that you can just leave in your pocket. You touch a button on the door, they'll unlock. You touch the start button, the car starts. You never have to take the key out of your pocket, purse, whatever it is. Works great. Big news here is the transmission. Normal transmission, it's an automatic transmission. The difference is mechanically, it's a dual clutch transmission. What does that mean? For lack of, just to keep the video short, what it means is it's a very quick shifting transmission, and you gain a gear over our other gasoline powered Kia Souls. So you have a 7-speed transmission in this car, and it's a very quick shifting 7-speed, and it does 2 things for you. One, it helps with performance. That's what this car is about, but this is actually our most fuel efficient gasoline Kia Soul. So you have the EV, which of course is the most efficient overall, but if you're looking for the most fuel efficient gasoline Kia Soul, this is the way to get it. You can do that in the 7-speed and the 1.6 turbo, which this car has. So a little bit difference there, but you know, you can feel that quick shifting transmission when you drive. I really like it, adds to the sporty feel. Other than that, you've got some basic Kia Soul stuff. You've got speakers on the surroundings of the speakers. They can blink with the music. It's really hard to show on a day like today, but you have to check that out maybe on a test drive one night. They brought that back. You can have them change colors with the mood lighting, or you can have it blink and change to your music, which I think is pretty cool. You've got a lot of roundness on the inside of the Soul. So a lot of squareness on the outside, a lot of round on the outside. You've got these big door panels here. I'll show you a picture there. You can see obviously like the keyhole style design, a lot of roundness. The speaker grills on top here, they're nice and round as well. Even around the gear shift area, the start button, a lot of roundness, and the steering wheel controls are different on this car than on every other Kia. They bring that roundness element into that as well. So that's kind of a cool feature. You get automatic headlights. Didn't talk about heated seats. You get heated seats and a heated steering wheel in this car. If you've never had a heated steering wheel, once you have one, I don't think you'll ever go back, especially in the cool weather like where we are right now. Heated steering wheel is night and day difference. So power windows, power locks. The windows in this car, the front 2 windows, auto down and auto up. But other than that, kind of a basic car with a ton of features. I mean, it's a little more basic. You don't get blind spot detection like you do in some of our other cars. The Forte now has got lane keeping assist. You don't have the forward collision system that you have in the tech model. So you lose a few safety features. But again, if you're looking for a performance car without a whole lot of extras, but all the right amount of extras, this is, I think, the car for you. This is a car that I would buy when driving enjoyment is near the top of your list. If safety features are near the top of your list, we can add a few on to this model as well as to other models. But if driving performance is the #1 thing and you want to balance that with your price point, this is the car for you, the Kia Soul SX Turbo. So I'm gonna hop out, we'll close off this video with a few other things. So to close off this video, I wanna talk briefly about the Kia Soul because I think it's an important car for us and there's a reason that it's been so successful. This model, this car itself is a really, really good platform. It's a really solid car, I've talked about that before. It's got a lot of high strength steel, that helps with safety, squeaks and rattles, body control in driving. It's something that they've used for our electric vehicle platform. It's something they use for economy cars with a 1.6 base engine. It's got the 2-liter engine, which is the standard car, and the 1.6 turbo is something they use for performance. There's a reason this car has been so popular. Out of all the box cars, this is the one that got the 2nd generation. You think about Honda Element, Nissan Cube, and some of the other ones, they never got a 2nd generation. But the other thing that's happening more recently is this has moved on beyond the box car craze and turned into that small crossover stage. So we used to call a small SUV the Kia Sportage. A lot of people think of Honda CR-V. This is a little bit smaller again, and you think of all the cars that are coming out now in this class. They're coming out because this car has been so successful. So even though you may have heard of the Kia Soul for a while, it's been around, if you start looking at some of those other smaller crossovers, you end up realizing that this is still a class leader because it's gotten it right from the beginning. And the reason this car has succeeded, and it will have a 3rd generation, is because it's really led that small crossover class. This one is my favorite Kia Soul because of the performance features. I value performance over some of the other luxury features, and I think this is a great car. So if you're looking at a performance car, maybe a small crossover that doesn't have enough performance because they focused on fuel economy, and that's why they're moving you to a smaller SUV, but you want a smaller crossover with a lot of space and a lot of performance, there really isn't a better option than the Kia Soul. So swing on by Brantford Kia, take one for a test drive. We'd be happy to show you more. A lot of features on this car that we could show you outside of video. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments below. I might make another video. I always read the comments, and I usually answer as well as best I can. So if you have questions, let us know in the comments, and of course, come see us at the dealer. Thanks everybody for watching.